doc or like YouTube doc about how musicians during COVID have had to work on getting things to be at the same time because like it's impossible to do on Zoom.
Oh my God, it's so hard. Like so I do a lot of Zoom prov. That is the other thing that gets me through COVID besides dirty fanfics that I read 24 hours a day, is just having some outlets perform. And we've been sometimes people will try to do that game where the two improvisers will speak at the same time and try to anticipate. So you're trying to speak a sentence together. You guys have seen that game, right?
Yeah.
It is fucking impossible on Zoom. Like I've seen people do it and I'm amazed. It's really hard. It's like it's there are just certain things that it's difficult to. I can't imagine trying to be a musician and like coordinate a performance with people across Zoom. That seems really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've been filming this like a little like joke news show called The
love
News.
it. I love it.
Thank you. I still have an episode to cut that I haven't done yet just because like I have no willpower to do it. And I feel really bad, but I just like don't.
Sometimes it's hard to get in there and do the edit. It's hard. I'm an editor and sometimes I don't want to do it.
It's just like hard. It's like, how
you're
hard
it is now too, officially.
Thank you. I've been working really hard at it, but like, it's that executive dysfunction. Like I'm halfway there and I just like can't finish the task, And
yeah,
like,
no, I get it.
But when we were recording, it was so funny because like Jasmine and I had like lines that came like right back and forth and her internet was lagging. And so I was delivering a line and then just like just waiting, and it was just the silliest thing, and it took everything like to keep it together. And I mean there's so many just goof ups on the takes because like it was so funny just sitting there waiting for the response. Anyway,
or like somebody's thing will mute temporarily and they'll think they said the line and they didn't say the line. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how virtual performance will continue because I don't think it's going to go away.
Right.
And I don't think it should. I have, and I know I've said this on the show before, so listeners, if you're tired of me hearing this, I apologize. But I have made so many friends in the last year with people in other states and other countries on these shows that I never would have met doing shows together because like they live in New York or they live in Canada or they live in Connecticut. And like, so I don't want to stop performing with these people, but I do wish the tool was better. I wish there was a better tool for this.
Yeah.
So I hope that innovation happens.
I think we'll get there because like I don't see it going anywhere either. Like with stand up, there have been so many like stand up shows on virtual platforms, and like I don't see it going anywhere just because
the overhead is so low. Yeah, the overhead is so low. Yeah, you can do a show. You can book comedians all over the country. You don't have to run out of space.
Mm-hmm.
I think
you don't have to pay anyone in drink tickets, like
right. And as a comedian, you're like literally like I'm gonna roll out of bed, I'm gonna slap some makeup on, I'm gonna sit in this chair, and if I want to leave, I could fucking leave. Like,
exactly.
I don't have to smell like smoke when I go home.
Right.
It's like I mean, yes, we miss performing live. I think the other aspect is the interactivity with the audience. That stuff is difficult. Sorry, you were gonna speak to that.
No, I just like I hope that's one of the things that we come around on is like how to have an audience react without like silencing the performers. It's just this isn't the right platform for that, which is so hard because like so much of comedy is being able to react off the laughter, and it's like it's been a hard year just learning how to do it without getting any laughs.
It's tough because you're like, is this dying? I don't know. But it's the same thing with improv. You're like, at this point, we're just performing for each other because we don't know. And people are in your Zoom or chatting with you and telling you what's funny, but you don't know what the audience is doing at all. So it's like, if there's a way to be able to hear them without them cutting out your audio or having them to be able to be involved with the show. Or Sarah, you went to that screening, Michelle Caruso's screening, right?
Yeah.
They did an event where they did a screening, but the audience could do live reactions. So like when they wanted to clap, they clicked the clap thing. If something was funny, they clicked the laughter emoji. And it was like, it doesn't replace the sound of laughter, but it did give you a sense of, oh, this part is funny, or this part is somebody's upset about this part. They're giving me the sad emoji, or, and the audience would see other people clapping and would hit the clap emoji. And it was like some way to make it less one-sided. And so if there's a way to do that, I think That would be really fucking cool because there is a lot of potential here, I think, to have wider reach of an audience for people who can't afford to rent a space to put on a show.
Yeah.
And to work with people across, like, geography doesn't matter, you know?
Right. And especially with like venues closing right now, like Highland Inn just switched management and is closed, indefinitely.
Oh my God.
Really? What do you mean? No.
I knew
Highland
that was
Inn
coming.
is gone.
So Robert's gone.
I don't know if they're keeping any of the staff or anything. I honestly haven't talked to Robert and Josh about it, but Joe posted a status the other day basically saying that it's switched owners and he doesn't know really what the future holds for it. So like, we're looking for other venues for when we're finally able to like come back and do Black as Fuck performances. Cause we had one on the books coming up and like we had one mid-year last year that we were supposed to do. And, we kept emailing them like maybe in September the virus will be gone.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, same. Like that's the place that we were doing all of our live shows and I was hoping to come back and do one. And I don't know. I've honestly, I know this isn't a podcast about how to do live shows, but I'm like, maybe I need to rent a studio space and do some kind of live stream show if I can't afford to rent a space,
right. That's an idea.
Get a couple of Black Magic cameras, do a live stream, have a very small audience and live stream the show. I don't know. And that's where my head's at because I just don't know what venues are going to be available to small groups like us. I mean, I don't want to speculate about what's going on with the Village Theater here in Atlanta, Georgia, but I've heard nothing about them. I don't know how they're doing. Dad's Garage seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, Dad's has been keeping up with stuff, but
they've got a lot of corporate sponsorship, so they'll probably be okay.
Yeah, and like I know Laughing Skull has been struggling too. Like any place I feel like that's really dependent on live theater has really struggled this year because like it's just, I think Laughing Skull is opening back up soon. I don't know. Maybe don't put that out. Just maybe beat me out on that. I don't know if I'm supposed to. Okay,
I'll cut that part out.
That was maybe a secret.
I think like venues have been closing right and left, and we're not speculating as to which places are going to stay open or close. But for us as performers and writers, and it's scary to think what is it going to be like when we get back out there. I know lots of theaters that have been closing around the country and, people doing GoFundMes to try to keep their theaters open. And it's just, we hope that there'll be a room for people to play once we can all be back together again.
I really hope so. Like I saw a post from a comedian that I actually never got to meet because we were supposed to meet when I went to Pittsburgh to do a show last year. And literally my flight was like 4 days after lockdown and I ended up having to cancel my trip and everything. And the whole festival that I was in got canceled. But he was posting how one of the comedy venues up there shut down. And so they like a few comics, I guess they broke into the place to record one last comedy album in there and recorded one last comedy album in the space just to like kind of give it a send off. But it's
a lot of places we're not going to get to say goodbye to,
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm going to get emotional before the show even starts.
I know.
Welcome to the Feminine Mistake Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
I'm your other host, Sarah.
I think she's just taking in the fact that the Highland Inn Ballroom is, I don't know. Is that what you're feeling right now? I can't tell.
No, it's the reunion of Nicole and Hillary.
Where we just shooting the shit here. Yes, our special guest today, you've already heard her voice. Writer, comedian, actor, director. She does it all. And also an original host of the Feminine Mistake Podcast.
OG host.
Hillary R. Heath, thank you for coming back to talk to us.
Hillary!
Of course. I couldn't pass up a Goldie, Hawn, Meryl, Streep.
Holy shit!
I couldn't say no.
Movie. I can't believe we didn't do it up until now. So
this was on our. Was it on our list?
I feel like Hillary. I feel like you maybe proposed this at one point.
I feel like it had to be on one of our original lists, and it was one of those that we just it was like, well, just Overboard would be a better one,
Yeah.
And I don't know if I suggested it or what, but I've never seen this movie before.
Oh,
so
me. So is Sarah. So the film we're doing today is Death Becomes Her, and we'll get to that in a moment. Before we do, what have you guys been watching? I know we talked a lot about live shows and how virtual shows. What have you guys been watching on the TV or the computer, or however you're consuming your content these days? Hillary, let's start with you.
I've actually been doing a lot of rewatches recently.
Nice. Comfort food.
Yes, I did. I recently rewatched Modern Family and The Mindy Project.
Oh
both.
my God. Sarah and I were together watching The Mindy Project. We kind of stalled out, I think, once they got to Hulu.
I mean, I definitely think this season, I don't know, man. I was kind of disappointed too, because the later seasons, Guy Branum was involved too, and I really like him as a comedian. And I guess I didn't realize, like, he has like a cameo in a couple of episodes, and I think he had directed some, and you know, maybe wrote or produced on it. And I was like, well, because like the later episodes, I mean, it got to be a hate watch by the end, and I was just,
it was a tough slog.
Yeah.
I really didn't like her and Danny together, and I just like wish there was a better way that they did that. And it was just every man. I was just like, can we just have like one that she doesn't have to fix? Like that's what the whole show was her fixing man after man after man.
Woman's dream, Hillary,
is to fix up a man.
No,
maybe
everyone's dream
that's
did
what
not
we're told. I want
something.
mine already made.
Yeah, right. And Fortune Feimster was also in some of the later episodes, I think.
Yes. Yeah, she was.
Yeah,
I
so
her
God, I feel like I'm hating on the Mindy Project. I love that show. I just did not love. I don't know how far we got. It was like season 5 or 6, maybe, that at that point I was like, I don't connect with the show right now. No. I think was what was going on there.
I mean, it's just since I've been working at home, you know, it's nice to just like kind of have something on in the background sometimes. So it's like it's a good background show. It wasn't amazing. But I also watched her other one, Champions, that she did with who's the actor? He's also in Mindy Project. I can't remember his name, from Workaholics.
I know who you're talking about, who played Casey, the boyfriend that goes to, he's like a Doctors Without Borders guy. I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah. I don't know the actor's name. He's hot though.
He's really hot.
I find him physically attractive.
Yes.
He's really attractive, but he also was in Champions, her other show that she made after Mindy Project, but it focuses on him, and I really liked it. But I went back and rewatched it, and it like does not hold up because it's also Fortune Feimster, and it was like, you know, it was he plays kind of like a middle class white dude who's like a little more conservative, and they did a good job in the Mindy Project, I think, with the more conservative characters. But this one, it was really just beating you over the head with like, I'm a racist, you know, and it's like
Anders Home.
Anders Home. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, maybe should I give the rest of Mindy Project a try, or just
give it a shot? But if you really want to do a rewatch, I would do Modern Family.
That's a good one.
It was a great rewatch. That one it holds up. It's a good one.
I never finished that one either. Not because I didn't want to. I just like it kind of just left my headspace.
Same. I realized I hadn't finished it, and it's on Hulu, so I was like, might as well just do it again.
Yeah.
And it holds up.
All right, cool.
I want to tell the story of the show I have not rewatched. I've not been rewatch because it's on Peacock now.
No,
and I don't want to buy Peacock.
I'm not buying any more shit.
You don't have to buy Peacock.
About? Are you talking about? Are you talking about The Office?
Yes.
Peacock is free with commercials.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Really? Do you just go on there?
Yeah, you just sign up for an account, but it's free. I watched all of the Harry Potter movies on there like a couple months ago.
Wait, the bird owns Harry Potter?
Yeah, Harry Potter. I don't know if it's still on there because, you know, it bounces around, but it was on there for a while, and I watched all 8 movies.
Warner Brothers, I believe, is who owns Harry Potter.
But it was like the first 3 had no commercials because, you know, they're geared more towards kids. And as you got up into the adult content, they started having commercials.
I feel like we're all getting a lesson in which studio owns what property as we're all trying to figure out which fucking app we need to buy.
Like all of them?
Is this a Warner Brothers property? Okay, I'm going to have to go to Peacock for that, you know?
We need, like, Nicole was talking about how we are going to need, like, bundles.
It's going to go back to cable, where they're going to bundle apps again, probably. Well, I don't know, but
Apple TV does bundles. So because I have like Stars and one other one through my Apple TV, and so like I go to the Apple TV app to sign into it.
But we need like a Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max,
they'll
Amazon
never.
Prime.
Those big wigs are never going to agree to that. I think Amazon does the same thing because I've got my HBO through Amazon. So it's like pick your warlord that you want to,
your warlord,
you know, internet warlord that you want to go through. So Sarah told us what she hasn't been watching. Is there something you have been watching, Sarah?
So let's see. I've just watched stuff for the podcast.
I know, that's me too. I was like, I haven't really watched anything except for stuff for these shows. We're doing.
What are you guys doing?
We're juggling two of them now.
What are you doing besides watching TV? Like, what else is there to
I have
do?
a job and I have a boyfriend.
Well, fine. Rub the boyfriend in my face. Maybe if I had a boyfriend, I'd watch Modern Family.
Well, last week I took a Avid certification class, so that took up a lot of my headspace. Actually, I literally did nothing but read about Avid 24/7 for like 6 straight days. I woke up today still dreaming about Avid and thinking that I had to take a test today.
Oh my God, that sounds crazy. Like work.
It was. No. Well, you know, it was good. It's been a while since I've been on that side of the table where you're the student and I legit had a panic attack during the first exam. I was just like, I had to do some deep breathing. It was like, I haven't had a panic attack in a long time, but I put way too much pressure on myself to do well. Because I was like, my job paid for this test, and if I don't pass, then I can take it again. But then, you know, Chris is watching the children and making me food and taking care of me all week so that I can do this class. And I felt like all this pressure to do well. So I didn't watch as much as TV as I would like. What else am I doing, Hillary? I'm reading Dirty Fix. That's what I spend most of my time doing. If I'm not watching an Andy Samberg or Adam Driver movie or something for this podcast, I am reading Dirty Fix on Archive of Our Own. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. But anyway, Sarah, so what have you been watching?
I've been watching, let's see.
And if you haven't, that's okay too. Because I know we're juggling 2 podcasts now.
Something.
Is it a serial killer documentary?
It's a film. It was so Sam and I searched for Steve Martin films.
Oof, that's good stuff.
And we found one that the top one on the search was one that he narrated as the dog. It was like a holiday rom-com called Love the
I have never heard of this.
So
Steve Martin. Now, was it like a who's talking kind of situation where he's the dog and he's speaking the dog's thoughts? Is that what we're talking about here?
No.
Or more of a, what was that movie with the animals? It was a cat and a dog.
Yeah.
Always made me cry.
Homeward Bound,
or Milo and Otis.
Oh, yeah.
God, Milo and Otis. That movie like brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it.
Every time. It's so good.
Love the Coopers. It's a holiday rom-com.
Okay.
It is.
Okay. Is this something we should watch for the show at Christmas time?
So
No.
there's like, I'm not watching that again.
Please don't make me talk about that for an hour and a half.
It's not. It's not that it was bad. It was pleasant. It was enjoyable. It was cute. It just isn't. There's not much to discuss.
Okay.
But yeah. So we watched that, and that's basically just stuff for the podcast and that. So
I know I've got you watching movies every week, basically at this point.
Cuckoo,
and Cuckoo, that's right. Yeah. We did have to get through like 6 episodes. By the way, Hillary, if you're looking for something to watch, Cuckoo on Netflix is a fun time. So just season 1. Fuck all the other seasons. Just season 1. Okay. It's fun. Andy Samberg is playing a like a dirty hippie character who
dirty hippie.
Girl brings home her dirty hippie boyfriend that she married on a beach. Husband, that's right. Husband. They eloped, and now he has to fit in with their straight-laced family or whatever. Anyway,
he's
cute. Cute show.
Okay.
It's
cute.
Did
you guys watch Palm Springs for your podcast?
We did.
Palm Springs we watched on this podcast,
Okay.
and it inspired the other podcast. So the reason we started the other podcast was because of Palm Springs.
We joked on the episode of Palm Springs that we should start an Adam and Andy podcast, and then I messaged Nicole. I was like,
she was like,
but what if we did?
Right? We're doing this, right? And then here we are, like 13 episodes later, into that show, which I love doing. Yeah, I had been watching a lot of Adam Driver movies, and so for some reason we felt like we wanted to like merge those into a show. And also, I did because it's quarantine thirst is what it is. But yeah, and then I got to be Sarah in this Palm Springs reading that they put together last night, which was fun. That was super fun.
That's really cool.
It made me think like I want to act in a movie. Like I love acting in sketches and improv and stuff, but I was like, I want to be in an actual movie where there's like a journey and shit. You know,
right?
Your own movie.
Well, speaking of movies, we should probably talk about this week's movie, which is Death Becomes Her, 1992. I was but a wee middle schooler when this came out.
I was but a 4-year-old.
I was turning 28 when this movie came out.
That checks
92,
out.
I was 28.
That checks out.
Sense.
So Death Becomes Her. Gosh, I've written down so many bullet points here. Before we get into it, let's talk about all of our experiences with this movie prior to the show. Let's start with our guest, Hillary. Any experience with Death Becomes Her before?
So, I mean, I had to have seen a clip of this or, know something about it. But I had never seen it. And I actually, this weekend, my dad was out of town. So I called my mom because I was like, I need to do some laundry. And I was like, but also I have to watch this movie. Do you want to watch it? And she was like, oh my God, Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn. Yes, I'll watch it with you. And so my mom was so excited because she was like, it's so funny. And that was basically it. Like my mom was raving on the phone about it. And I was like, okay, well, don't tell me anything about it. I just want to see the movie.
Well, that's lovely. I'm glad you guys got to watch that together. Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep I wish there were more movies with them together, and Bruce Willis. I have my feelings about him, but we'll get there. He did a good job in the movie. I just like his character. Sarah, what about you? You're the one who suggested this, and I know it was on our first episode this season where you were the one who put forth this movie. So finally we're watching it.
This is a favorite of mine from childhood. When I was a kid, we would go to Blockbuster, and I think one time I saw the cover and I was like, let's take this home. And my mom was like, okay, like sure. I think she had already seen it and like knew like it was okay. I watched this over and over and over again when I was like 8, 9.
Okay.
It was one of those movies like the Lion King or something where you like memorize all the lines.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So
this was like your Overboard. That was my movie that I memorized all the lines for.
Yeah. Mine was Miss Congeniality,
which we should also watch for the show, I feel like.
But like I just loved this film, and I knew it was silly. Like I always knew it was silly, but that's what I loved about it. I feel like kids are more into the things that are very broad and very like obvious, like things that are very like this is obviously this. And so I just thought this was
not a lot of subtlety here, that's for sure.
No.
Right. But that's good, I think, if you're a kid.
For kids,
that's awesome. Wow. So this is I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it now, watching it as an adult. I also had seen this movie. I love Goldie Hawn. I love Meryl Streep. Bruce Willis, take him or leave him, honestly, for me. I do love him in Pulp Fiction. He's great in these movies. I just I'm not here for the Bruce Willis. I'm here for the Goldie Hawn and the Meryl Streep, if that's what's drawing me to the movie.
And the Isabella Rossellini.
Oh my God, she's so good in this movie. I think I saw this in the movie theater. It feels like something I saw in the movie theater. I don't have really solid memories of this. It's just kind of always been around. I remember thinking to myself that I liked that there were 2 female leads. That was not very like that wasn't a common thing in growing up in that time period. So that was something that I liked. And but then now watching it, I have a really different perspective on it than I did back then. It was fun and silly, but now I kind of see some nefarious things underneath that I look forward to talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all of our experiences with this film prior to the podcast. So let's get into talking about this movie.
The house is a mess, Jack. The kids are a mess, Jack. You're a mess, Jack.
You have been a total bitch ever since you came to New York.
You seem sort of distant.
Let's just do it, man.
You look stupid and rich. Stupid and rich.
Fascist.
All right, let's get into it.
Did anybody, there's like a video going around of Tom Holland. Like, I swear to God, it's Tom Holland doing a press interview and he's wearing like a suit up top, but then like no pants.
Yes. Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
It's like, that's the shit right there. Are these celebrities even going to go back to doing interviews outside of their homes? Like, I wouldn't.
Why?
It's like, just, I've got a black, like if I were Tom Holland, I'd be like, I got a black magic. I got a ring light. I'll do as many of these in one day as you want, but you're not getting my face. Like, I'm not going to go to London. You can just call me from my room.
Just call me. I've got a great setup and got a backdrop. We're good.
You can talk to me for an extra 20 minutes if you want to, if I don't have to come to you, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Death Becomes Her, 1992, directed by Robert Zemeckis, who was having a lot of success at this time.
What Lies Beneath?
Did he also direct? I believe he also directed Forrest Gump, right?
Forrest Gump.
So
correct.
This would have. I think this was pre-Forrest Gump.
Big time.
Pre or post Forrest Gump.
Pre-Forrest Gump.
So he was having a string of successes at this point. Gosh, there's so much we can talk about. I really would love to start with this opening musical number. That's what I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Madeline, I didn't write down her last name, played by Meryl Streep. Madeline's opening musical number. Oh gosh, there's so much to dig into here. It starts with Madeline having some kind of Broadway show.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I just want to point out the first thing I did as soon as this movie started was look up everyone's ages, because this movie is focused on youth and aging.
You're right.
Okay.
So Meryl Streep, when this movie was made, 40.
Okay.
40. Okay.
She was my age.
Okay.
I'm 41.
She was 3 years younger than I am now. Okay.
Meryl Streep was 40. Goldie Hawn, 45. Isabella Rossellini, 38. So that joke where Meryl Streep says you look 38 was spot on, because she actually was 38.
Awesome.
And Bruce Willis was 35.
Ooh.
And he looks the oldest to me of everyone.
I know. And I'm like, okay, because like earlier you said I don't come to the movie for like Bruce Willis, and I was like, but some of them I do, you know. But then when I heard he was in this, I was like, okay, I can watch Bruce Willis for an hour. And I was like, oh God, what did they do to him?
He's playing
he's a real sad sack in this movie.
He really is.
I feel like not that this is a thirst podcast about Bruce Willis, but peak Bruce Willis hotness for me, honestly, is Pulp Fiction.
Honestly, it is. It truly is.
Peak Bruce Willis hotness for me. Pulp Fiction.
I would take Die Hard Bruce Willis too, but like,
he's cute. I'll pinch his tushy for Die Hard. I will. Sarah looks horrified. But I want to talk about this musical number because it starts with her. We can assume, because this is 7 years ago. I'm confused about the timeline. I guess she's supposed to be 50 in the present timeline, which if that was 7 years ago, she would have been in her early 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she says that Helen is 50. That's what she says. Yeah. So let's assume.
Isn't it 14 years? Because wasn't there like a 2... Like a 7, and then it was 7 years, and then she was still out of the clinic or going to the clinic.
So she would have been in like her late 30s, right?
Yeah, and they're talking about talk about reviving the dead. I'm like, I was like, she's a young woman.
She does not look old to me, and I get that I am old. I get that I'm 41, but I don't feel old. I don't feel like I look like an old person. They worked so hard to make Meryl Streep look old. They worked so hard. They put liver spots on her hands, you guys.
I know.
Her hands. I don't think my mother, who is 68, even has liver spots on her hands.
No, I was sitting right next to my mom, and I like did like a sly like little peek. I was like, "Oh my god, is this like something I've never noticed like
And
before?"
your
I
mom's
was like,
stop looking at my hands, Hillary.
My mom does.
and like I was like, because my mom is she's 61. She just turned 61 in January, and so I'm like, what? I was like, how does Meryl Streep somehow look older in this
worked
movie?
hard. They made her hair look old. They made everything. So like, and I think that was part of the thing, and we can talk about that. But the musical number also, the song seemed to be about every little box that a woman gets put into. Right. All the categories you can shove a woman into. That's what that musical was about. So I thought that was a really interesting way to set up the movie, which is, I don't know if it's time to talk about this yet, whether the movie is aware of this, but it feels to me like the movie is about all the boxes we get put into. Mm-hmm. Now, whether the movie is self-aware enough to know that's what it's about, I question. Yeah. But it is about those boxes, specifically young and thin and beautiful and able to keep your man.
I think it is aware.
Sure. Is it?
I think it is.
Okay, plead your case, because I don't think so.
I feel like the entire plot of the movie would not make sense why they would even make this movie if they were not aware of it, because that's the entire idea of the film.
Okay, I get that.
Like if they were just like, it would be the dumbest thing of all time if they were not aware of it. Sure.
So, right. And of course the film is about two women grew up together, rivals, Helen, played by Goldie Hawn, and Madeline, played by Meryl Streep, and they Madeline is obsessed with youth and staying young, and so she finds this sort of immortality serum that allows her to do that, and then chaos ensues. Sarah, what do you have as or Hillary? Anybody want to jump in with the next point of the movie or any topic that you want to discuss here?
Well, I also so when they go backstage after the musical number too, I just she calls her, it's Mel. Is it Mel and Hell? What they call each other?
Yeah.
Mad and Hell.
Mad and Hell. Yeah. That's it. And I was like,
that's an interesting kind of connotation to that.
Yeah.
I noticed that throughout the whole thing that she called her Hell. And I was like, all right. I was like, that's kind of interesting. Especially, I don't know. It's also just like, Goldie Hawn was always in red and like all this other stuff. So I was just like, oh, what a, cool little nickname for her. Sarah, look at you.
I know Sarah dressed appropriately today with a red. If those of you guys who are watching the vidcast can see this, but if you're listening to the show on Spotify or what have you, Sarah's wearing a red blouse to commemorate the costuming
and red lipstick
of this
sexual
sex, sensual,
sexy
penis.
That's how I'm gonna seduce a man next. I've learned a lot from this movie.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
I'm just gonna send that over Tinder. Just sexual.
Like with an asterisk so that he knows it's italicized.
Yeah, and red lip emojis on either sides of it. So he really knows.
He will not be able to resist you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk about Madeline and Helen's relationship.
Female friendship, toxic female friendship.
Is it a friendship?
I don't know. It seems obligatory to me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like they're friends. Like they even say, don't they say at the beginning, like, how long has it been? Don't you say how long it's been since we've seen each other, and it's like, they don't hang out. They don't talk, she didn't know that, Madeline didn't know that Helen was engaged. They're not friends.
No.
It's frenemies.
Right. It's kind of like that person in your life. But it's that person in your life that you compare yourself to the whole time, that you're like, is so-and-so getting married? Are they doing better than me? Have they gotten more money than me? I feel like it's natural to have like a competition with someone, but that's what their relationship sort of seemed like more to me was, well, almost like a sibling that you kind of, you're not friends with.
I want to be better than this person as long as I'm doing better. So what were you going to say, Sarah, about what you think their relationship is?
Yeah, so I think that it is like the movie tells us they're friends, but it doesn't actually seem like they're friends. Like I feel like it just tells us they're friends, and I don't
Yeah.
think that two women like that would actually be friends. And also, where did they meet? How did they meet? Why are they?
Well, it seems like they knew
Why?
each other when they were kids because they eventually have a fight where Madeline says that she was not invited over to Helen's house because Helen's family thought she was cheap. And to
Mhm.
get back at her, she's been stealing Helen's boyfriends her whole life.
Yeah.
Which also was weird how Helen wanted Bruce Willis with Ernest to pass the Madeline Ashton test.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
ugh.
So I just feel like, and you know what? He didn't pass, and so
He didn't.
You dodged a bullet, girl.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to come out and say this right now. I have a real problem with the fact that this whole movie hinges on the fact that Ernest is some kind of catch. Ernest is trash.
He's some little loser hanger-on. I mean, he's
trash.
horrible.
He is not attractive, even at the very beginning of the film. He looks dopey and weird.
And he looks like he's wearing a toupee.
He is a bloated. We'll get to what the quote is, but he's an alcoholic, undertaker. I feel like Helen dodged a bullet. Yes, but that's what he becomes.
Right.
Because in the beginning, he's like a plastic surgeon, right?
Is it Madeline's fault? What did she do specifically to make him a alcoholic and who is kind of abusive, frankly? He does try to choke his wife and pushes her down the stairs.
Right. After he's been pushed.
But Sarah, would you push someone down the stairs or choke them just because they made you angry? Exactly.
I also like
he's trash.
And our first introduction to their relationship is when she's getting breakfast in bed and she's like, I find it hard to believe my husband woke up early and made his side of the bed. You know, he's not even coming back to bed anymore. There's obviously something that's broken in their relationship that's a problem, you know, between the two of them. And I do think that, like, if you're going to steal somebody and, you know, marry them, you know, it out of spite, you're building a relationship on a rocky foundation anyway.
But it's his fault.
How do you expect that?
He doesn't give a second thought to immediately leave. Like, he is immediately like, fuck you, Helen. Immediately. And the guy has vodka for breakfast, okay? Like, that is not Madeline's fault.
Can I just say, though, like, that's like everything. I would love that, to just wake up to somebody just like pressing a chilled Bloody Mary against my cheek.
I mean, he shouldn't. He really shouldn't complain. He's got it made.
I know he does, and like, also I think that we're like led to believe that a lot of that is his money, and I don't see how. Because like,
I don't think
you
so
know,
either.
in one of their arguments, like, when did you perform last? You haven't performed in blah blah blah.
Residuals, bitch.
I'm like.
She's got a movie career. She's still on television. Her old movies are being rerun.
Exactly. Like, you didn't buy this with your spray paint funeral face medicine or money, you know? Like, come on, dude. So
I think that both Madeline and Ernest are sleazy, trashy people.
Oh, for sure. But
I think that
Ernest
they push
is
each
nothing
other to be worse.
Absolutely, but Ernest is nothing to fight over, and that's sort of the crux of my problem here, is that the whole movie hinges on, like, why wouldn't Helen just fucking what is so great about Ernest that she can't give him up? What is so great about Ernest that Madeline can't just kick his ass out? Like, I don't understand why these two amazing, powerful women want this fucking schlubby asshole. And I feel like that is a common theme that I see in multiple movies where it's where no male screenwriter thinks anything is wrong with two beautiful, powerful, bad bitches fighting over a schlubby loser. And that is the crux of my problem in this movie, is that Ernest is trash and he's just not worth it. He's not worth it. That's how I feel.
See them as I guess I don't see the women as being that great.
They're not good people. They are not good human beings, but they don't need him.
Right.
Yeah. They're both successful in their own right and could have been happy and moved on and found someone else, you know, and been probably less terrible. But
I mean, Madeline has a hot boyfriend already. And yes, they have to knock her down a peg by having him tell her he's doing her a favor, because God forbid a woman in her 40s have a hot young boyfriend in a movie. God forbid.
Yeah. Right.
I think this movie is more about Meryl Streep's character chasing youth and what's her name? Goldie Hawn's character seeking revenge. And revenge for the sake of a past hurt, as opposed to she doesn't want him back. Like they're not fighting over him. He's just there, and they're trying to eventually try to use him to take care of themselves. But I didn't see them as trying to fight over him.
You know what? That's valid, and I think that's fair. But I want to take us to the next point here, which I have is my next big problem, which is the whole fat suit thing and the frosting eating and all of that. And like, the whole fucking, if you got like, fuck that whole scene, but also like the revenge is still hinging on the fact that Ernest was taken from her. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, once you see Ernest, if I were Helen, I would be like, wow, fuck. First of all, I'm never going to talk to Madeline again because fuck that bitch. But also, man, I really dodged. I almost married that guy. I dodged a bullet.
But they could have had a deeper connection, like that they didn't. They hinted at it a few times. I
didn't feel it. I didn't feel it
either, especially since at the beginning too, when they even go to the show, she's like, "Well, I didn't realize you were such a Madeline blah 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 fan," and he's like going nuts for her, and it's like he didn't even. It almost seemed in those moments like he had used Helen to get close to Madeline in order to do this and be with her. That's what it seems like to
plausible.
Me in the beginning, because Goldie Hawn's character, Helen didn't even know, that he was such a fan, and like then he meets her and like fangirls out. So like they obviously didn't know each other that well, even though they're getting married. You don't know that he's like mad for this weird Broadway actress. Like most men don't have that, they're not that big of fans of this. So you'd know.
Yeah. I feel like if I had seen some kind of deeper connection there or something. Also, like I have a real problem, and this is not the first movie that I've seen do this, where it's like, woman gets dumped. She immediately we got to put her in a fat suit. Make sure she's eating frosting for breakfast. Yeah. And I actually didn't have a problem with her fingers. I didn't have a problem with her rewinding Helen being murdered over and over again. I thought that was great. That was a great story point. But like the whole thing of like, let's put her in the fat suit and then let's get her in now she's so crazy. Now we got to put her in a mental institution where the whole therapy session revolves around her not talking about the problem that got her here in the first place, because apparently mental health is about just like pretending that it didn't happen.
Yeah. And like screaming at your patient,
and a therapist
top notch,
screaming at her. Wow, yeah, no, that was the one thing. Like when I rewatched this, that I was like, whoa, like the rest of it, I was like, I remember this. Like this is how I remember. But that the therapist screaming at her was like, yikes.
Also, like just a woman who's needed to be on a mental health hold, just going eliminate her, doesn't strike me as like healed and ready to be released into the general public again.
Don't think so. No.
Yeah.
So again, I want to say that what I do think is great about this movie is to have two women who are unapologetically awful. I love that.
I love the anti-heroes. Yeah.
Love it. And I even love that this movie acknowledges that women are expected to be young, unreasonably so, because there was nothing wrong with Meryl Streep's fucking face in the first place.
Nope.
And young and thin, like they're supposed to fit in these boxes, or they have no worth. And I think that is great. I don't think the movie is self-aware enough to comment on that in any kind of way that forwards the conversation about that. And I'll get to why.
No, I agree. It doesn't forward it.
It uses it as a joke. It uses it as a joke, and it uses, and I might as well say this now. My biggest, besides Ernest being trash and the fact that, and I'll bring my point back around to Ernest because I'm not done with him yet. But I'll wait until the end for that. But my second biggest problem with this movie is that the movie is not self-aware enough to go, the problem is the box.
Yeah.
The movie says the problem is the woman.
Mm-hmm.
The movie says Madeline is a terrible person because she wants to be young all for the rest of her life. Helen is a terrible person because she wants to be thin and beautiful so that she can get revenge. What the movie doesn't do is say these women had no other option than to be this way because of the box we put them in. The movie isn't enough aware to say that. That's my big problem with the movie.
Correct. Yes, I would agree with that. Yes,
but I love watching Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn just fucking shoot each
Love
other with
it.
shotguns and shit for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's fucking great.
Like when she I just remember like when I was a kid when Bruce Willis's character pushes Meryl Streep's character down the stairs and like the fall and the crazy like all the shots like the 50 shots of her falling.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then the shot of her
upsetting.
like Bruce in the foreground and then like her in the background as she slowly like moves.
That was a great shot. That was
great.
Fucking great. This movie had a lot of 90s lighting in it, which I think we can see that style. It's very like, this doesn't seem like it's happening in reality. Weird light sources and all that, which we've seen in other 90s films, but done in a way that felt like artistic, and so I was fine with it because there were these harsh shadows on people's faces, and it felt almost like this gothic movie about like, you know, the pursuit of youth, and I did love that. And I do want to say that even though Ernest is a trash pile, I thought Bruce Willis played him great. Bruce Willis did a great job with him.
Yeah, Bruce Willis, I loved his screaming, his like all of his lines that he like screamed or squealed. Like it was just
he's so pathetic. He did so good with that. Like because I feel like, and I not to criticize this man and his choices in life, but I feel like later in his career he's like created this persona where he has to always be this strong macho guy, and like I like that in this movie he was able to take that and swing onto a different pendulum where he's just like a sad pathetic sack. It's like a reverse Jason Bateman where Jason Bateman is always a sad pathetic sack. Bruce Willis is inverting that kind of like what even in this time would have been that archetype for him of the macho guy who can do no wrong. Like he's really swinging to the opposite, and I think he did a really beautiful job with it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, who's got anybody other points you guys or scenes or anything? What should we talk about next? Yes, Sarah.
Goldie Hawn getting thin and appearing as like all done up and red at the book what was it? Book signing,
her book signing for like her weight loss plan or whatever it was that she had. Yeah. Whatever book she had put out.
Her Forever Young book.
Yes. Yeah. What did you think about that, Sarah?
So yeah, I remember being a kid being like, oh wow, why did she do that? Like what was the her reasoning? Was she trying to get Ernest back? Like, you know, and I wanted to ask you guys, the first time you saw it, when did you think that she had taken the potion?
Great question. I think because I saw this movie so young, I don't think I caught on until she gets shot.
Okay. Because I noticed because she had the pin on her dress. In the scene with Bruce Willis, because it was like, you know, Isabella Rossellini had made such a big deal of like putting the pin on Meryl Streep, and then as I was watching it, I was like, "Is that a gold pin on Goldie Hawn's dress?" And then I like,
oh yeah, this is great because you hadn't seen this movie and you're an adult person who can you deal with foreshadowing. So good, so you saw the pin.
Yeah, I saw the pin on her dress because it was the only accessory she was wearing. I think I don't even think she had jewelry on. It was literally just the pin, and so I was like, okay. Figured that out. So I, you know, me watching it and seeing that, I assumed she took it, you know, shortly after leaving the mental health facility, you know,
or whatever. I mean, she had to give everything she had, she said. So I don't know where, but also Isabella Rossellini says, I will, like, it depends on the person, how much I'll take.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and it
she
was
gave
also
him
like
something.
Yeah, and it wasn't it. So she got. If the timeline is of what I'm remembering, it was 7 years, and then she was in the mental health facility, and then she was out, and then it was 7 more years until the
Right.
book signing.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, like, you know, she had 7 years to save up some money and
Take the potion and all that
well,
stuff.
and it had to be far enough away that she had written this book because I mean,
So I remember when I was a kid thinking that Isabella Rossellini's character was the devil. And thinking that because we didn't see a price, that it was a person's soul or like something they'd have to like exchange, like because we didn't actually see a number. It's like, what if it wasn't
That's
a
true.
number?
I
What
guess
if it was like
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Meryl
Well,
Streep
she
does
did
write
write
her
a check.
though.
Yeah, she does write her check.
Yeah.
But I think in a way the punishment is eternal life. That's the punishment. And if you can't take care of yourself, you're stuck in this rotting body, basically. That doesn't rot, but breaks.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well,
Excuse me.
I thought that bless you. I thought that they didn't rot because of the formaldehyde. Because didn't he pump her full of formaldehyde after she died and fell down the stairs? He like went and got a bunch from the thing, and it was like in the trunk of the car.
Sure.
I thought that was why they didn't like rot, but their skin was still peeling off and like turning gray and all that stuff, you know?
Great point. I don't know what the rules are. That wasn't very clear because she
I
doesn't
don't know.
like it when they break something, it seems like it stays that way unless it gets popped back into shape. I don't know what sort of tissue situation was required to fix that hole in Helen's stomach, but yeah, I'm not really sure. Their skin changed. I thought I always took the peeling to mean that was the paint peeling off.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they weren't very clear about what the rules are there. Their temperature changed. They have no heartbeat because they're dead, but they weren't clear on if the body doesn't die, then I guess it wouldn't rot, but it certainly would be misshapen, and they kind of shatter into pieces at the end.
Yeah.
But maybe the formaldehyde would cause that. I don't know. I don't know much about undertaking.
I don't either.
I don't know that the people in this movie do either. The people that wrote this movie.
No.
They literally shatter like ceramics when they fall down the stairs. Yeah, so I do want to talk. I'd love to talk about that scene with Isabella Rossellini. I think we might as well just
Which one?
Skip right to there. The first one.
The
So
second one. Okay.
Madeline sees Helen at the book signing. Helen is looking. Goldie Hawn is looking fucking radiant. I think this movie really shows you what makeup and lighting can do, because they do their best to make Meryl Streep look ancient.
Like literally the whole time I was like, she doesn't have that many lines under her eyes now. Like
exactly.
I was shocked. I was like,
they tried to make everything look saggy. They made her hair very dull. Like they did a whole thing. And of course they did the same with Goldie Hawn earlier in the movie, where they put that weird wig on her, and of course the fat suit and all that. So, but like honestly, the transformation when she drinks the potion, really, I think is just like, oh, now she's got normal makeup on. and they lit her night well. That was all the change. But yeah, so Isabella Rossellini, what can we say about her? Of course she's tempting.
I want that top. I can say that.
Jewels. I'm just picturing her in the makeup room getting the jewels glued to her tits every day, and I'm like, I would wear that shit.
Oh yeah,
in a heartbeat. She looks amazing.
She really does.
You guys know who her mom is?
Who? I'm trying to remember. It's somebody. Sophia Loren, right?
Ingrid Bergman.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
she looks just a lot like her too.
Wow. Yeah. So she's Hollywood royalty, or foreign film royalty, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was something in me that made me feel like because she's 38 and she looks fucking incredible.
She looks 22.
She looks so good.
And I was like, wow, because one of the things this movie did touch in me is the idea that I'm an actor who continues to age, Only I'm not Meryl Streep, so I haven't had my big break, right? Like,
Yep.
so I am constantly, and Sarah and I have discussed this. So I'm writing this feature right now, and I'm writing this sort of like romantic lead for myself, which is something I've never really done before because it's always been like just a thing that feels very like I'm not romantic lead material. Somehow I've led myself to believe this. But also I wrestle with the idea of like, by the time I get this movie funded, what if I'm 42, 43? What if I'm 45 by the time I get this movie funded? And I'm like, should I even be allowed to be in this movie? Even though in my mind, what I want is for women in their 40s to be able to be a romantic lead and to be desirable or have feelings of love and sexuality represented on screen. And yet I feel that, that pressure that like I'm running out of time. Like I feel that even though I'm fighting against it, literally because I'm writing this movie, I'm fighting against that, you know?
It also reminds me of that sketch from Amy Schumer's show, The Last Fuckable Day.
Yes.
Fuckable Day, yeah.
Yeah, and because they talk about Sally Field in it, how in one movie she plays someone's romantic partner, and then literally the next movie she did, she played his mom.
Yeah, and so in Punchline, she was his romantic interest, and then in Forrest Gump, directed by Robert Zemeckis, she played his mother. Yes. Fuck, so that's so true.
Yeah, and it was just, you know, at a certain point, like Hollywood's just like, you're a mom now. And it's like, but you should be able to play those roles still. I mean,
George Clooney does. Matt Damon does. You know?
I also think there might be this like reclaiming of romantic comedies coming on the horizon, you know, like I've been working on The Waltz with Ava Davis, which is, you know,
Fucking
about a trans
script.
lead. It's a great script. And so like, you know, I think we're starting to get ready for things like that. I think like, I mean, Amy Schumer's movie, what was the name of that? Where she played where she was the lead, you know, it's just, I think we're starting to get there and see different people in these roles, which is important and exciting because like your life doesn't end at 35.
It doesn't.
You know?
It doesn't. And then pick up again when you're allowed to play grandma roles.
Right.
There's a whole space of life in between there. And there's this book that I'd like to recommend to our listeners if you're interested in this kind of stuff called The Wrong Kind of Women, written by Naomi McDougall-Jones, where she kind of talks about how Hollywood has traditionally been this place that's been very hard for women to break into as actors and directors. And one of the things she talks about is how the most common age for men to get an Oscar is in their 40s and 50s, because they have gone through all this personal growth, and so they're getting these really meaty roles where they're getting these amazing parts, right? But that women, those roles are absent for them because around in their 20s now they're jumping into mom roles maybe, and then there's not very much for them until they get back up into their 60s or 70s. And so there's this whole part of their lives when men are getting these amazing roles, getting all these like awards and accolades because they've grown as people and as artists, and that women are not getting those same opportunities. And so I think it comes down to what you just said, which is people putting their own stories out there and telling them their way and saying, look at this. This is about me. This is about you. This is about us. We don't have to just have only this certain type of story. Welcome to Plug It Up. This is the part of the show where we talk about all the cool things that our guests are up to and that we are up to. And so let's start with Hillary. Hillary, what would you like to plug?
Well, I am going to be on an episode of Badass Boomer Babes, which is a podcast.
I am writing that down.
Yeah, and you'll love it because it's hosted by Patty Forhan.
Oh, I love her.
She's so amazing. So she's a comedian out of South Georgia that we met through our stand-up comedy class, and she's just absolutely phenomenal and just started a new podcast. Yeah. So I'm going to be on that in March talking about dating. So very excited about that. And then also you can just follow me on social media at Hillary R. Heath. And it's Hillary with 2 L's and then a middle initial R, Heath, just like the candy bar.
Yes, Hillary's always up to a lot of interesting stuff. So definitely follow her on all those socials so that you can stay up to date with what shows she's doing and films she's working on and whatnot. Cool. I'm gonna plug the Critical Crop Top YouTube channel because that's where you can find the vidcast for this podcast. So if you just go to YouTube, type in Critical Crop Top, there we are. You can also find the vidcast for the Adam and Andy podcast, which is the show that Sarah and I do, where we just watch Adam Driver and Andy Samberg movies. I know it's absurd, but we blame it on the quarantine thirst.
We'll always blame the quarantine thirst.
Always and forever. And of course, also we've got some brand new sketches coming out for Critical Crop Top sketch comedy web show. We filmed them all virtually. Sarah and myself and Melissa Knapp and Brandon Mitchell and Ava Davis wrote and directed a bunch of these sketches, and they're fun and cool. So check them out. And of course, you can also find us on social media at Critical Crop Top on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this podcast as well on Facebook and Instagram at Feminine Mistake Pod, and you can find us on Twitter at Femmistake Pod. We're always open to suggestions about what movie would you like us to do next on the show.
We're open, but we don't get too crazy.
We're open. We'll consider it. We'll put it in the little metal box, and we'll shake it up once a couple times a year. Thank you, Hillary, for joining us on the show. Everybody, please come back and join us on the next episode, where we will have part 2 of our discussion of Death Becomes Her with special guest Hillary R. Heath. In the meantime, I hope everybody takes a nice, refreshing swim in a pond. Perhaps without a hole in your abdomen.
Yeah.